dynamics of communication and mediation. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest speaker, Ms. Uma Ma'am, a pioneer and respected figure in the field of mediation and conflict resolution in India. Today, we are going to have a role play. And, ma'am, before which, would you like to give us some guidelines or how are we supposed to proceed?
Yeah. Oh, good morning, everyone. Those role plays were given to you for you to have an idea. We will do it in the later part because I would like to give you some more inputs before we start on that. Okay. Uh, so far, we have been talking about what is a conflict and how communication happens in conflict. But in any conflict resolution, what happens is people come with their wants. They say, I want this, or this has to be done. So what happens is most of the time, it's also an emotion backed want or something that they feel that they are entitled to, especially in matrimonial cases, they will say, oh, he's earning so much. Why can't he give me this much? I remember there was a matrimonial matter where in one of the top business families in Chennai, uh, this lady came and she was asking for 50 crores. And, they said, what is this? I mean, she chose to walk out and we can't give. But then she said, the family owns all these businesses. So his share is so much. So I am entitled to half of that. So this is how they will come to the table. Now, how are we going to make them understand that they have to have a realistic appraisal of this situation? I remember there was a workshop in which one of the psychiatrists from New York had come here. Actually, he was talking to a bunch of people who were dealing with alcoholics and the family members who were supporting them. And at that point, he said, when anyone comes to me with a problem, can you hear me now? Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I think I lost the connection briefly. Yeah. So, most of the time, people really don't understand that they have also contributed to the problem. And most of the time, they are very defensive or they are reacting, so they don't pause to think. So, in the last few sessions, what we have learned, especially in the last session, you would understand that the thinking is the main problem, how they think about the situation. I was actually listening to a podcast by one David Hoffman, who is part of a research team in Stanford University. And he was talking, he's a neurosurgeon, and he was talking to another person who said sound is the main thing that triggers thought. That is what our Shruti has said. I mean, the idea was Vedas would be passed down because you had to listen to it, you had to imbibe it. And now neuroscience has found that, and it was surprising. Of course, it doesn't really relate to what we are talking, but they said elephants, they are able to sense something through the sound that gets, the frequency of the sound that gets transmitted through their feet. And because of that, they are able to communicate it to another herd somewhere else. This is really, very exciting to listen to. But then when we try to see how it applies to our scenario, you will see that most of the time, it is either something that we have said or something that we have thought, which has been communicated, which makes it into a more entrenched situation. Now, the two examples, role plays that I gave you, one is a matrimonial dispute and the other is a dispute in the family relating to property. Now, what is it that they are looking at? If you look at the conflict and look at the styles and styles of communication, which you will have to apply, you will find that each one is thinking they are entitled to something. Now, in the case of the matrimonial dispute, this man comes from a family where his parents come from different religions. So that has an impact on him. The religion that he chooses to follow, and because of which the guilt or the feeling that he has when he goes back into his home. when his father is practicing another religion? Again, gender. How does he think a woman should behave, or what is it that means to him that when he looks at a woman? So for him to take those videos, he didn't look at his wife as if she was a person with feelings, but he looked at her as an object. Now, in the other case of the hospital was built up by the father, but ultimately one brother is in US and one brother is in India. The brother who has been in India and who has been looking after the aged parents will normally think that he is entitled to more because he has put up with all the tantrums of the parents or whatever was the troubles in the hospital, at home, and all that. And everyone thinks that the person in US has had a very rosy life and he is not entitled to the same or even anything. Now, the sister comes with a different angle. She would have been married and she would have taken whatever jewelry or property from the family. But once the parents die, she comes with the hope that she will also get something. Or even if she doesn't want to, it will be her family, with her husband and family, telling her that you have an equal right, so why don't you go in and claim your share? But on ground, if you see the reality, this person who has been at home looking after his parents, looking after the hospital, having invested so much after being trained in UK, brought all those equipments, invested so much, built up that reputation for the hospital to get patients. So there is a sense of what shall I say, recognition of what he has done, that he needs to be accepted or he needs to be honored for what he has done. Similarly, in the matrimonial case, Naz comes from a family from a village, and she's suddenly exposed to something. And she saw this fellow only in a browser center and she decides to marry him. Her father keeps sending the money, but he doesn't know what is happening in the family. The mother is illiterate. She also is not able to totally understand what is happening, but she wants to keep a control over the girl. Now, a girl who comes from a small town, being exposed to a life in a metropolitan city and being exposed to, the digital life. Now, how she can relate to it or what happens when she tries to get into it. These are the forces that act there. So once we get this kind of dispute to the mediation table, the first thing that the mediator has to understand is that you have to get their narratives. What we are looking at that point is each one has a perception of the narrative. Now, I would like you to do a small exercise. All of you, if you can, wherever you are, please stand up. Please stand up. And put your hands straight with your palms touching each other. With your palms touching each other. Straight. Okay? And close your eyes. Both the palms touching each other. Both hands outside and both hands touching each other. Now imagine somebody puts 1 kg weight on your hand. Just imagine there's 1 kg weight is being put on your hand. Close your eyes and imagine. Now imagine another 2 kgs is added onto your palm. Now imagine another 3 kgs is added to your palm. Now slowly keep it down. Imagine you're keeping it down. Slowly keep it down. Come back to your seats. So when you put your hand out, you stretched your hand out. Was it the same as when you imagined you had 1 kg on your hand? What happened? Physically there was no 1 kg. But I said, close your eyes and imagine 1 kg is kept on your hand. So what happened? Anyone?
Ma'am, it felt a little heavy even though there was no weight.
Yeah. Then when I went on adding the weights, what happened? It felt lighter or heavier?
Heavier, ma'am.
Heavier. And when you kept it down on the ground, what happened?
Ma'am, our hands are free then.
Free.
We don't. Yeah.
Okay. Was there any weight in your hand throughout the process? Physically?
No, ma'am.
No, but then why did you feel it was heavy? And why did you feel light when you kept it down?
Because
Imagination, ma'am.
get
It's
that
your mind. It's always in the mind. So most of the people who come to the table are with this kind of weight on their shoulder or on their heads. Their eyes are, even though they are open, they are close to looking at what is there in front of them. So to make them understand what is their responsibility to the conflict, first we will have to make them understand that they can sit relaxed, they can they can trust this person and they can start talking. Because they don't know the mediator from Adam. If it is in a court-referred mediation, the court has said you must go for mediation. They will be very upset because they've already paid the lawyer, they've paid the court fees, they've been waiting in court. And so they will say, I don't want to come. And ultimately, if they are forced to come by the lawyer, they may come, but they may be very angry or they may be very frustrated because all these years it has been pending in court. What is his judge? Can't he give a decision? That will be their attitude. If it is private mediation, they come with the belief that they are paying you for something, and so you must give them an answer. So again, their eyes and ears are closed. Now, how do we get them to open their eyes and ears? That is the first major part that the mediator plays. Now, mediator, we'll be talking more about this in the next session. But what you have to see is that I did not share the opening statement this time because I wanted to see how you would do. I would be sharing it later and before the next session so that you would understand how the opening statement makes a difference. Now, the opening statement is about introducing yourself and asking for their introduction, and then sort of getting to know and setting the pace for the mediation, telling them how we are going to structure this mediation, what will happen in the mediation, telling them that it is voluntary, it is confidential, and it is important that they participate and it is without prejudice, and how their language should be, and how this process will be conducted, and who is in control of the final outcome. So when you say this opening statement and then you ask them to say briefly about their case, and for the first time, after entrusting to the lawyers, they are going to be in the spotlight telling about their case. So at that point, what happens? It becomes important for them to open up and say what are their concerns and what are their anxieties and what they think about their situation. So when they start narrating, what happens is they may be coached to say certain things, or they may believe certain things which is not reality also. But once they start saying it aloud at that point, what happens is, see, from the mouth to the ear is just a short distance. So they are also listening when they talk. So when they start talking and they start listening to what they are saying, what happens is the strong attitude with which they came gets a little challenged. They start wondering sometimes whether what they are asking is right or whether they need to do something. And it is at this point that the mediator summarizes the whole thing. So, for example, if Naz had said, this is how we got married, this is how it happened in our house, and then ultimately I had to walk out of the house because of these reasons, she would have spoken for half an hour. But the mediator would say, so from what you say, I understand that both of you met in a browsing center and you got married and you also have a child. And now because of various differences and because you felt that he used you to take some videos which you thought were inappropriate and he did not understand that, you had to walk out of the marriage. Now what happened? Half an hour of whatever she said gets reduced to just 4 or 5 sentences, but the emotion that she has is captured. The main intent in the communication is captured so that when Yusuf starts talking, he understands what he has to look at. So what happens is, in the process of summarizing, we also make them understand that we have heard them. And that is the most important thing. Unless parties feel that they have been heard, they will not really open up and talk to us. So the most important thing when we are talking about shift in thinking is that first we have to understand that there is something that the person that is troubling this person. And so any decision that they have to take or anything, any effort that they have to make to solve the problem depends on how we understand their relationship. What is the characteristics of the person involved first? So identifying what kind of people they are, what kind of goals they are looking at, what kind of entitlements they are looking at is the first thing. When we are listening to their narration, we get an idea of that. And then what happens is we decide, when we summarize and we ask questions, we sort of take the process forward by structuring it in such a way that they get the space to open up and talk. Now, why is this important? Because ultimately it must be satisfaction of all parties involved. And sometimes there may be third parties who are driving the whole problem. We may have to bring in the third parties, but we must know what is the desired outcome, or at least we must get a hint of what they are looking at and what could satisfy them. So the most important thing in intervention is that first we have to understand who are the primary and interested parties. Now, why do I say this? Who are the interested and primary parties? Why do I say that?
Ma'am, whose rights are hampered and who want the remedy?
Yeah. And see, and that also depends on culture. I was told that in Los Angeles, when there was a mediation, one of the top women executives was called in the workplace for mediation. But she insisted that her father would come with her. And they said, it's a workplace problem. Why do you want your father here? But she said, in our place, we listen to elders. And unless the elders are there to help us to decide, we cannot decide this. So I will have to bring my father. So in some parts of the world, especially in China, they say, if an elder says something, they accept it because the elder has said it. Was out of respect for the elder. Here also you will find that there may be a mama or a chacha or somebody who is actually behind them. And so involving them is also very, very important. And as I said, the relationship of the parties and power, which I will talk about later, power and resources. Most important is we go back to the history. Now, are they going to be cooperative or are they going to be competitive is the first assessment that we make. So when we say cooperative or even if they choose to come for a private mediation, it is more as if in litigation, they are invisibly carrying swords and they want to fight with their swords. So most of the time it is, I want to be the winner here. I must not, or more than that, I cannot lose to this person. I don't want to be seen as a person who has lost. So what will happen is there will be a lot of struggle for this, either competition or sometimes just giving up. So we have to understand whether they are cooperative or competitive. What are the psychological effects there, which we have earlier spoken about? And also, what is the significant events in their family? So sometimes, when you go back and ask them what happened in their childhood, what did they study? How did they make this decision to join this business? Something like that. And, they would come up with, yeah, I knew this person and this person was, they were living next door and he was the one who helped me to study. In fact, in a particular case, this man said, my friend's uncle was the one who helped me to study. He paid for my fees. And though he became my business partner and now I don't trust him, if his uncle comes and tells me, I will accept because I have a great regard for the uncle. So going back to the history helps us because they will have, that is where power also comes in. If they have respect for somebody, that person could be influencing them. It could also influence the decision making. And context, we know. What is the level in which the culture has affected the context? What is the time? Most important, I would say, is time when we mediate. Some of the cases may not be ripe for mediation at that point. Parties must come to a stage where they feel they want to trust a third person. So parties, understanding who are the parties is important. Understanding the history is important. Understanding the context in which the situation has arisen is important. Sometimes, of course, we have spoken about attitude and behavior and all that. also the dynamics of the situation. What are their styles? What is it that is spiraling this conflict? So when we have spoken about all this, what do you think is the next major thing that could be important in understanding the conflict? Anyone? Why have they come to a third person? They have not been able to talk to each other. They have either gone to court
Ma'am,
or they have gone to other people also. So what is
ma'am, because there's a lot of toxicity which is involved, and whenever they are talking with each other, there's a lot of anger on the table, and they are not able to come to the point where they can actually share the substance of the dispute with each other.
Ma'am,
exactly?
and basically there is a deadlock between them, and they have to refer a third person so that they can have the smooth talking
Yeah,
without
but
any
again,
difference.
what has happened? Yeah, what you said was right. Deadlock. Why does a deadlock arise? Because at the first situation, when the first point when the situation arises, they start blaming each other, or they start telling this person is a fraud, or this person is a, you can't trust him and all that. So they have not been able to uh, talk frankly with each other or to convey what their real intention, mainly because they lose trust. So, trust and power are the two major factors that drive any mediation conversation. Power, we will be talking more about in the next session, but what we have to understand is okay, what is trust? When you came into this class, how did you trust that I would say something of value? Otherwise, you won't be spending your time here.
Ma'am, because there's a lot of reliability involved with your name,
Mhm.
and you have been doing mediation for a while now, so you have that kind of experience. That is why we
So, my
have trust in
reputation,
you.
my reputation is there. Yeah.
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
anything else? Your professors
Ma'am,
also. Yeah.
because of our past interactions as well, we
Okay.
had that trust. Yeah.
Okay. Then mostly because there is a belief that something good will come here, right? So trust is based mainly only when there is something positive, only when you have a positive expectation about the other, only when you believe in the other person, only when you think that there is something of value that you could get here, that gives you a confidence and a volition to come to the table. Now, the first thing that is not there or totally absent when they come to the mediation table is trust. They don't trust each other. They don't want to make any offer. They don't want to discuss anything with the other person because they feel this has happened, and so this person is a fraud. Now, when we talk about trust, we also have to talk about distrust. There, of course, it is a negative expectation. More than that, it is also fear of the other person. So, what happens is we always want to protect our own space. We are not willing to look at the other person because we think they are stealing into our space. So it's building this trust is the most important thing in mediation. So what happens is when they come into the mediation table, the mediator, by stating the opening statement, first establishes uh, an ambience where they feel calm, because one is it is in a closed room, unlike a courtroom. And when you start the opening statement and tell them how the process will be conducted, and sort of introduce yourself and ask them about who they are and all that, there is a connection made. So the trust is built because earlier what happened was, one is I have an attitude, I don't want to trust this person, or I'm a very aggressive person, I want to get away with whatever I want, whatever I think I should have. Sometimes it is also because of the situation. A superior in an office would think I can just order, oh, this person, although the subordinate says, I had told you I have to go for the cricket match of my son. No, you're giving me work at the last moment. But he would still say, okay, what? I just got it from the head office. So I'm asking you because you're the person who are working under me. You have to do it. So it could be the situational parameters also. Sometimes it is the history of the relationship also. Oh, this person, he always says he'll come on time. He never comes on time. He says he agreed to do this, but he has not agreed. He has not done it at all. Even in an earlier, when we had a discussion with the family or with somebody of importance, he agreed, he committed to something, but he has not done it. So when there is a history of actions which affirm how this relationship has been, trust goes away out of the window. So all this has to be in a positive frame. Only then there'll be volition and there'll be trust. It is very, very important for the parties to trust the mediator and for, what shall I say, for the parties to trust each other. Because there is a calculus-based approach. We are wondering what will be the loss that I will have by coming to the table. And the other one is, there is an identification-based approach. When we say calculus-based approach, what is this? It is based on, again, as I said, what will I lose? But most often it is because I want to win. I don't want to lose here at all. And the identification is where I want to be respected. Most often, they say, oh, he said this about me to all these people, so I'm not going to come to the table at all. I will not listen at all. So it's important to understand that what is driving them, or what is, what shall I say, the element that is taking away the trust in that relationship. Unless we are able to find out whether it is calculus based or it is identification based, we will not be able to help them to move forward. So while we talk about trust, we also have to understand one thing. There's the other one, as I said, power. Power, is Bernard Mayer has written a lot about conflict and power. And he says that it's the ability to get one's needs and to further one's goals. So if a superior says, okay, this job has to be done today, because he has that kind of a power where he is holding that office, there's a hierarchy there because of which the subordinate has to obey him. He knows that he can get this person to get the work done because he can order somebody. So that kind of power is used when in a workplace. Sometimes in family relationships also, the parent saying, I'm the parent, you will have to take this course, you have to study this. So the father is going to pay the fees for the course and the child is unable to say anything else, join that course which he likes or does not like at all. Now, Christopher Moore goes on to say that it is a capability to modify the outcome of the situation. Now, this power can be of different kinds. We'll go into it later. But all that we have to understand is trust and power play a great part in this paradigm shift. So when trust is stronger, when there is a stronger thing, what happens is it is less motivated and it is more coercive. When the power is more stronger, what happens is that there is a feeling of oppression, there is coercion. So they don't want to really listen to the other person. Communication stops or communication becomes totally different from what should be there. When it is less powerful, that is when power is less powerful, what happens is they become very passive. They say, okay, I'll do this, but they really don't want to do it. And so when the concessions that they make or the reactive defiance, saying that, yeah, I would do it, but they won't do it at all. So these two factors are very, very important when we talk about decision making. What we have to understand is that in any interpersonal negotiation, I'm not talking generally about negotiation because negotiation is more about interparties. In mediation, what happens is the mediator only nudges them to negotiate, helps them to negotiate. And so, though we talk about Vatna in negotiate, that is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement or a worst alternative to a negotiated agreement, it is important to look at the bracket or the space within which they are negotiating and what kind of offers they have. And that helps the mediator to, I won't go into this in detail, I just want you to look at it later. Now, what happens is, in the whole discussion that we have, Elizabeth Badar says it is actually three-pronged. Once is that once there is a situation where parties are not able to talk to each other, there is an inflation. Everything is blown out of proportion. There is a lot of blaming, there is shouting, there is demands, there are positions. So the mediator has to listen to this narrative, understand what is the intention behind this conversation, deflate the whole thing. Only then there will be a proper resolution. So this inflation has to go up, come down, deflation, and only then there will be a proper resolution. So in any resolution, what I want you to understand is basically, first is the mediator engaging with the parties, which we'll be talking about in the next session. But I want you to understand that engagement and rapport building is the most important thing. That is where building trust also comes in. First, recognizing why the parties are there. What is it that is really troubling them? And what is the clarification they need? They may be looking at it differently. See, for example, if you were standing on the top of a very high rise building and you were looking at the road, say from the 15th floor of that building, and there is a, say, even a traffic light, and you see a speeding truck coming there and a cyclist going, and looks as if the cyclist is going to be run over by the truck going so fast. When you see the speeding truck and the cyclist, or a young person going on the cycle, the first feeling is that, oh my God, this boy has to be careful, or this girl has to be careful. But you are not really very agitated because you're looking at it from the 15th floor. You recognize what could happen, but more than that, you don't feel much. But whereas if you were on the road level and you were near the cyclist and you saw this huge truck go fast, nearly pushing this boy or girl, you would be shivering and you would be raging and you would be shouting at the truck or whoever was driving the truck. That's because your perspective changed at the ground level because you were very near what was happening. Whereas on the 15th floor, it was something which was not very near. So parties come into the table thinking that it is, yeah, this is what I want from this. But once they take ownership of the problem only, they realize, and for that they need clarification. So that clarification comes with a lot of deconstruction and storytelling. Even if they are making some demands, whether it is legitimate, whether it is possible, whether it is realistic, what is the background from which they come, or why are they saying this? A man may say, from an ordinary small grocery store that you would see at the end of the street. There was this mediation where this person said, oh, my wife doesn't get up at all and I have to get up at 4 and go to open my shop. And then I am there in the shop till the night, and when I come back also she's sleeping. So that's why I decided to file for divorce. She doesn't do anything at home at all. And the mediator was a senior advocate, and he really did not understand. So he said, so what? Who was making your coffee in the morning? Who was serving you lunch and dinner? And he said, my mother. So he said, why can't your mother continue? And this man got very angry and he said, then why did I marry her? See, it's very easy for us to look at it from our point of view. But then what is it that he is looking at? He was looking at marriage as a wife who would come here and take care of all his needs at home when he went out to work and he came back. So it is not right to tell him that wife cannot do everything for you. You cannot expect it. Maybe it can come at a later point of time. But at that point of telling him, asking him what are his needs, how do you think it can be managed? And then asking her what are the difficulties or what did she think about it? That would sort of make them bridge that gap in that socio-cultural milieu and for them to understand what are the needs in the situation. It is only after that alternatives and options are built. Okay? So then they make the choice. So the trajectory, if you see now, the shift has to happen first in trusting the other person, being able to communicate, being able to understand how this person is thinking. And then this deflation happens after all that. Only then there will be alternatives, there will be options from which they can choose and they come to a resolution. So any doubts so far? Any doubts so far? Okay.
No.
Can we have 3 people as volunteers so that we try out this role play now? Then we will discuss this later. Okay. So I would like one of you to be the mediator. We will take the matrimonial dispute because that's easier. One of you will be the mediator and one of you will be Yusuf and one of you will be Naz. Who would like to? This is just a learning experience. So don't think that we are finding fault.
I am Yusuf.
Yeah. You will be Yusuf. Okay.
Yes.
Who wants to be Naz?
Ma'am, Isha was Naz.
Okay. Naz, who wants to be the mediator now? Come on, somebody
Ma'am, I will be
volunteer.
the mediator.
Okay, Sarah.
Ma'am, I will be the mediator.
Okay, then can Srishti, can you do something to just have just these three people on the screen?
Ma'am, we can pin them so that only these three will be visible.
Yeah. Can you try that?
Ma'am, if you all shut down our cameras, then these three will be only on the screens.
Okay, that can also be done. Yeah, and the rest of us will switch off the camera.
Yes, ma'am.
So the mediator will, Saran, you're the mediator, right? So you will start with welcoming them, introducing yourself. And of course, you don't have the opening statement now, but just make them comfortable and congratulate them for coming to the mediation. And then ask, because Yusuf, Naz is the person who has filed. Ask them who would like to go first, and then say, Naz, because you've come to court, can you tell me what happened? Okay. So just briefly try saying this, then we'll go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Saran Srivastav, and I will be serving as a mediator today. You may call me by my first name. How would you like us to address you?
Call me Yusuf.
The
Call me
purpose
Naz.
is to help you work out.
You muted, Saran.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
If the parties may tell me, how would you like me to address you all?
You can call me Naz.
Okay.
You can call me Muhammad Yusuf.
I think we are losing connection every time.
So the purpose of our meeting is to help you out to resolve the situation that has been developing between you. First, we would like to explain how I will proceed. So, ma'am, just a minute.
Yeah.
First, I would like to explain how I will proceed, so you know what is going to happen next. I will begin by asking you to explain to me, the mediator, exactly how you view things. We would like to understand what your role is here. Our goal is to help you figure out on your own the solution to your own problems. You are the one who will be living with the solutions from here on, so we want you to be the ones who decide what the solution will be. We won't be judging you both who is right or wrong. We want to assure you that anything that you may say during our session is strictly confidential. We'll be taking notes from time to time so that we can remember things. But when we finish, we'll destroy those notes. Either of you may ask to take a break at any time during our discussion. Sometimes it is helpful for us mediators to separately speak with each of you during our discussion. So we may do that occasionally as well. It is necessary for this purpose for each of you to sign this written agreement to mediate. If you would just look at it over, please. It basically says that you have come on your own accord, that what you say here will be kept strictly confidential, and that the mediators will not be asked to release information discussed here, nor will they be summoned into court to testify on matters disclosed here. Last of all, I would like to discuss some ground rules. I ask each of you to agree not to interrupt when other person is speaking. You may speak. You may take notes about any responses to make. We would also like you to agree to avoid the use of any crude or name calling, etc. We'd like to begin now with hearing each one of you to explain your perspective in the situation. Because Naz was the one who had initiated the mediation process, so I would request Ms. Naz to please open up the statement.
So I am Naz, and I married Yusuf, who is my husband by law. And when I met Yusuf, I believed that he's free and he agreed to marry me. And we met in a browsing center. And only after the marriage, I realized that the family of Yusuf did not have any money. His parents did not talk to each other. And apart from that, Yusuf is a very moody and abusive person. He used to abuse me verbally time to time. And I became very depressed. We had a child together, but when I found out that Yusuf is dealing with soft porn and he was using me, I decided to move out because it was not safe either for me or for my child to be with him. And I decided to take the child with me. And I took all the data from the computer storage and moved out into an apartment near a school. And that is why I've initiated this mediation because I want to claim maintenance and a house to live in and educational expenses for my child.
I hear you, Naz, and as hard it may sound, but let's give Yusuf also a chance to explain his perspective, what he has to say.
One second, Sarah. After she finishes, you just summarize what she said because only then she will feel heard. Before you go to, Yusuf,
Okay, okay.
what in just 3 or 4 sentences, what did she try to say? Just summarize that.
So,
We're
Isha,
going to take out the negatives and then say that. Yeah.
okay, Naz, so if I heard you correctly, you wanted to say that you were married to Yusuf and Yusuf was a little abusive towards you and he was dealing in soft porn. Also, also he may have used you also in some activities. Is that right?
Yes, and he actually made me believe that he came from a rich family, but he did not. So that was also deception on his part.
Okay, Naz. Okay, Naz.
One second.
Yusuf.
One second. Before you go to Yusuf, of course, you caught what she said. But when you said about soft porn, see, when you said that, what she was trying to say is that he was abusive, right? When you use the same words, abusive, Yusuf will think that you've already gone with Isha, you have believed her. And so he will not really open up. So instead of using, yes, she has also to know that she was conveying this, and you also have to convey what Yusuf will have to reply to this. But instead of using the word abusive, what you will say is that what I understand as is that you met him in a browsing center, and you got married, and he had made false impressions about his family, which you believed, which you later came to know it was not true because according to her, he was not financially sound. She from a rich family and all that she said. So the impression that he gave about about his family was not true is enough to show that what she was trying to say has been captured. And as far as this harassment is concerned, you can say that you later found out that he was dealing with soft porn, and also the way he was dealing with it made you very apprehensive about what can happen, and so you decided to move out. So but that is a fear that he's using her, right? So you feared or you are apprehensive is enough. Instead of repeating what she has said in verbatim, if we take out the gist of what is said and then convert it into something positive, so that because if you say, oh, he was abusing you, when Yusuf starts talking, he will say, oh, she will say, and you will believe her. What is the point in my talking to you now? You must give a chance for Yusuf to come out openly about what are his concerns or what does he think about the situation, right? You start off really well as a mediator in the opening statement and all that. But of course, this comes only with practice. I won't say it comes overnight. And every time, even now after 15 years, we all make mistakes also. Because when parties become very emotional, we also say something. Yeah, it was a very good attempt, but just look at this, okay? Now you can ask Yusuf to talk.
Yusuf, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yusuf, please go on, and we would like to hear about your perspective as well.
As Nas said, we were married for so long and we have a child. So the thing is, I have no intention of using her in any means. She's just blaming me for abusing her, but she doesn't know what I have done to make myself. I'm a self-made man. My intentions were not like I have to show when we meet कि मेरे पास इतना पैसा है या फिर I और
Somewhere it's echoing. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
हाँ जी हाँ जी। तो मैम सीन तो मैम ऐसा सीन क्या है ना कि हमारा ये होता है कि मेरा उस समय इंटेंशन नहीं था इस समय कुछ भी करने का कि मैं ऐसा दिखाऊं इसे कि मेरे पास बहुत सारा पैसा है शादी से पहले। फिर उसके बाद बस हमारे पास पैसा था, फिर वो ना धीरे-धीरे करके चीज़ें हमारे बीच में मानता हूँ काफ़ी बिगड़ती गई हैं। और लास्ट में अभी नाज़ ने क्या कहते हैं कस्टडी के लिए कह रही है कि उसे चाइल्ड की कस्टडी चाहिए हमारी बेटी की। पर बात ये है कि अगर हम दोनों के बीच में जो भी चीज़ें हुई हैं, अगर देखना चाहता हूँ कि अगर हमारे बच्चे के नज़रिए से अगर हम दोनों दोनों साथ में रह के साथ में अगर उसे बड़ा कर सकें तो काफ़ी सही रहेगा। एक दूसरे को ब्लेम करने से ज़्यादा अच्छा ये रहेगा हमारे साथ।
Now you can summarize and then ask him what does he want to say about her allegation.
Yusuf, Yusuf, I heard you, and as I understand, I think you are a little comfortable in the Hindi medium, so I'll be summarizing in Hindi. मेरे हिसाब से मुझे लग रहा है कि आप ये बोलना चाह रहे हैं कि नाज आपके पास वापस आ जाए और ये जो कस्टडी है वो आप कस्टडी नहीं चाहते, आप नाज को भी अपने बच्चे के साथ चाहते हैं अपने घर में वापस। और आप ये कह रहे हैं कि आप एक सेल्फ मेड मैन हैं और क्या कहते हैं आपने बहुत इसमें मेहनत की है, आपने सोसाइटी में रहती है, तो आप चाहते हैं कि आप नाज की डिमांड सुने और ताकि आप इस चीज को रिकंसाइल कर पाए। क्या मैं सही समझ पा रहा हूँ आपको आशित?
हाँ जी हाँ जी हाँ जी।
So now ask him what he wants to say about her allegation about this pornograph. Sarang, you can ask Yusuf, can he, because that's a question coming in, okay? Only then he will be able to explain.
Okay, ma'am. I'll ask Ashutosh what Yusuf.
Yeah.
Yusuf?
Yeah, he's listening. You go ahead.
Yes. Yusuf, what's your perspective about the soft porn comment which Naz made prior to your statement?
The thing is, I have been in a family like these things are very normalized to me, so they are not very out of the box. So the allegations of making soft porns are not that correctly framed. This is my business.
It's my family business also. So we'll stop here for a moment.
Yusuf, as
yeah, you summarize that. After that, we'll talk. Yes, Sarang, you go
Yusuf,
ahead and tell him your comment.
I hear you, but Yusuf, I hear you, but as a matter of fact, if I may comment on this, that the activity in which you are indulging is not legal. So, and the problem Naz has is not with the business, but the type of business. So, if you're willing to change or consider changing anything else to, because you're as you told, you're a self-made man, so you have the brains, you have the talent. So, are you willing or even or type of business? Because I think as a mediate,
one second, sir. 1 second. See, when you started talking to him, now already you made the decision that because he said it is his business, that he feels it's okay, now he has to change. Now, when Naz was talking, she didn't want him to change. She has decided to walk out. So when they are both together, when you talk in the private session, maybe you can talk. In caucus, you can talk. But when you're talking here, you don't give them suggestions, or you don't give them, your views about this. You say, so from when you're summarizing what he has said now, you only say, so from what you said, I understand that in your family, this is common practice. And so you don't think that Naz should be worried about this. But then Naz has a different view, and maybe people outside also will have a different view. So can we go back to understanding? Because you said it is in the family. Can you tell me what your father is doing? What is your mother doing? How many siblings do you have? So you go back to the history. Now you've identified what the parties are, who are the parties and what they want to say. The next is going into because he has said something which is not normal. So to understand his behavior pattern, we'll have to go into the history. Okay. So you try this again, people, when you are alone, and we'll talk more about it in the next session, because now I'm sure from this you have understood. And I want all of you to congratulate Saran for a very good introduction. Now, this opening statement, is very, very important, because that sets the tone for the whole thing. You not only tell them that they can confide here, they can talk about whatever they want, but you also make it clear that you're there to listen. So that is where sitting properly is very, very important. In communication, generally they will tell you solar, that is shoulders symmetry. You must not lean forward, or you should not, go back, or you should not slump like this. You should have your shoulders straight. You must be sitting straight, not very stiff, but at the same time straight, so that people know that you're listening to them. That is part of the listening technique. Also have an open posture. Don't have your hand on something. Keep it in such a way that you are very relaxed. You have eye contact. So it's very, very important to set the pace. And that opening statement, when you say it is voluntary, at any time you can go out. But before that, because the court has sent it, and usually what we say is that the judge feels that you have the capacity to make the decision. So they have given you a chance to make the decision. So why don't you take the opportunity? And most often the technique that I use is, I don't say you, but I will say, I don't understand. See, you may know what the situation is about, but for me to understand, if both of you start talking, I won't be able to understand. So one person has to talk at a time. The language that you use must be very careful, because we are here to settle the dispute, not to go for another fresh dispute. So elaborate on this a little. Tell them why it is voluntary. For you to feel comfortable to make a decision, even if you don't make a decision, it is okay. The court will take it from where it left off. Next time I will also do I'll try to see whether I can take a video and send it also. You can do an opening statement in such a way, but you did a really good job. I won't say it was bad, but as you go on, only you will understand. Okay. So it's very, very important for us to understand, as you would have seen here, you would have seen that each person is coming with a different perspective about the whole thing. They have a cultural or social attitude which is totally different. Now, Naz hasn't expanded more about what she went through, but once she does that, you will understand there is something more, right? So what you have to understand is that when we talk about this paradigm shift, what we are talking about is, first we have to identify what is the type of conflict that is there. Now here we have understood it is totally, what shall we say? Culturally, it is totally different opposites. He thinks it is okay. In our family, it is okay to look at porn. For her, she may have also indulged in looking at porn, but when it comes to his taking a movie when they were intimate is not right. So identifying the type of conflict, reframing issues. So when she alleged that he was harassing me, or he was indulging in all these activities, when you're summarizing, what you do is that you are shifting the negative to something positive. And you say, so Naz, I understand that you came with an impression about the family, but that was not the financial situation there. When you came and you found out that he was dealing in a business which is not legal, or you are not accepting that kind of business. So what happens is there is a shift in the focus, so that somewhere they understand that they are looking at it from different points of view. To come to mutuality, they have to look at it differently. And most important is active listening and responsive communication, which we spoke about earlier. Distinguishing between needs and positions is also important. So when they come in, they come with their position. Now, Naz says, I want maintenance, I want educational expenses, I want him to pay for a separate residence. Now, he comes from a family where there's already a financial crunch and he is dealing with all this. He may not be able to pay. And for one, he may not like the wife walking out. He may have wanted to walk out, but he cannot accept the wife walking out. So he will come with a different position saying, I want us to get back. He may not mean it at all. So what is it that is the real intention? What are the real needs? For her, the child going to a special school is important. So she needs him to pay for that child's education. So once we identify the needs, we'll be able to prioritize which issue is to be taken and then which can be focused on so that they can address it. Also understanding the needs of the self and the other. He may think that it is okay, but for Naz, this kind of business is not okay. So helping him to acknowledge that is important. What is a shared need? Here the shared need is the child. A shared interest is the child. And their values are not the same. When you go back into the history, how they met, how they decided to marry, where did they go for vacations, all that would help to understand some good moments that they shared. They would say, so, okay, you had all these good moments. Now, because of this, you seem to have broken apart. Now, what do you think can be done? At the first instance, though, we are not looking at reconciliation, but we slowly nudge them towards that. Are you very sure about separating? That's what we ask Naz. And that is done in a very indirect way. And being alert to cultural differences also. More than that, handling the emotions. Usually we say they are very difficult people. Actually, they're not difficult. It's the emotions that's making them difficult. So once we identify that emotion, see, for her, if he has been using these videos that he has taken and he's been putting it on the net, and a friend of hers told her, okay, this video was on the net. Now she's more worried about her reputation. If she was also okay with it, that's a different thing. But if she was not okay with it, then she is very worried about what her parents are going to think. And at some point, she may also think about her child. So getting them to be sensitive about what are the hot buttons, that is also very, very important. So when you go further into the discussion, you will understand how to handle all this. So now, David Rock has created what he calls as SCARF. This is very, very important because he says it's very important for people when they are looking at problem solving to look at these things, which is he has identified as first is status. Status is what is this that I think about myself. I have an impression about myself. I'm a professor. I'm a lawyer. I come from this family. So what happens is my reputation is at stake, or if I feel that I'm not respected or my status is not acknowledged, I don't want to engage with you at all. So the first thing is, what is it they think about themselves? Here, Yusuf comes from a very rich family, but which has lost money. So he may be thinking of all his grandparents' name or whatever, or if they had a business, something about the business. So you don't want to directly tell them this business is not right. You'll have to go in a very roundabout way to tell him what was the family doing, what is his qualification, what kind of jobs can he do, has he tried out other jobs, do you think you could earn something from some other business so that she would feel financially secure and she may think about coming back. So addressing that, more of addressing the self-esteem is very, very important. The second, he says, is certainty. Although offers and counter offers and evaluation of these offers goes back and forth for some time, people want to know, as we spoke about trust, people want to know that when they are looking at something, this will happen. So at some level in the conversation, in the dialogue or in the negotiation, it is important for something to be certain. Yes, this person is taking responsibility for this action. And the next he talks about is autonomy. Now, autonomy, this person must have the power to make a decision or have the capacity to make the decision. As I said, this Japanese woman said her father would have to come to the table. So even if she had been discussing, it would not have fructified into a workable solution at all. Now, most often this happens in principal and agent. When there is an agent coming to the table, they may say, I have to go back to the board of directors, I have to go back to the MD, I can't make a decision. So when we are negotiating a deal, it is important to know that this person has the capacity to make a decision. Sometimes they may not have the mental capacity at all, either because they are depressed or they don't have the mental capacity at all. So we will have to judge that and decide whether mediation should go on or not. The next one is relatedness or relationship. Is there any connection? Is there a need? Now, Naz needs him to pay for the education, otherwise, she would not be coming to the table. Now, he may choose not to pay, so he may not agree to engage in the mediation at all. So, how to engage, get him to engage there? Ask him about his feelings for the child. How was his childhood? So, then he may talk about something dysfunctional in the family. How his parents would beat him up or something, or his father never paid for his education, whereas the church-going mother was the one who tried to borrow and do something or the other to get them a basic education. So these are factors that we go back and forth, either in the joint session or in the separate session caucus. We have to decide when to have a caucus or when to have the joint session. Getting them back together when emotions are toned down is better. So all that is very, very important. Most important is when they have some offers. It is very, very important for us to see whether it is fair. See, if a person is asking for 1 crore, I remember we had a mediation about 10 years or more back when there was this lady whose husband was a film director. And what happened was she was from a remote village in the south of India. And her lawyer there had told her, ask her for 1C. 1C at that time was very big amount, 1 crore. She didn't even know what it was about. She came to the table and she said, my lawyer has told me ask for 1C. Otherwise, don't agree for anything. And I knew immediately she didn't understand what it was. And I asked her, what is 1C? Is it money or is it a land or is it a house? She said, I don't know anything, ma. My lawyer told me ask for 1C. If they give 1C, you agree. Otherwise, you come back. So most often they would not even know what it is about. So getting them to understand what they are talking about, getting them to understand what is the reality there, what are the resources, what are the facts that can be, discussed and for them to come to a possible solution. So in any creative and productive problem solving, what this says is that first we have to identify and diagnose the problem. And most important is when we start talking to them, we don't tell them that you have a problem, we have come here to solve the problem. Because then, like the word conflict, which is hard, problem makes them think, no, I'm going to have a punching bag. So instead of that, we say, we have a situation here, let's understand. See, just like when you have a headache and you go to a doctor, and the doctor says, okay, I'll give you this, try this, otherwise we'll do these tests. It's important to diagnose the situation before we look at anything further. So let us understand the situation. So can you tell me more about this? So in the joint sessions, what we do is asking them open-ended questions, which are, can you clarify on this? Can you tell me about your family? Can you tell me about your workplace? So these gives them an opportunity for them to expand. Whereas in the private session or in caucus, what we say is, oh, you have asked for 1C. Do you understand what is 1C? This you can't ask in the joint session. You can ask only in the caucus. So what happens is first we identify and diagnose the problem. Next, we understand what are their goals and what is it in the socio-cultural milieu. What are we looking at the standards that can be applied to this case? And then we start eliciting information, getting more information, getting clarification. They may have misunderstood. Somebody would say, they'll say, I came from US, And then my friend told me my brother has told everyone that he is entitled to the property because because my father said that you take care of us, we are writing this property on you. And so, my brother is in US, he can't get anything. So this may have been an information given by a friend. But whereas this brother may say, I'm entitled to a larger share. So that clarification will happen only when we start talking to them in the joint session. And then we have the issues and what are the underlying issues. As I said earlier, when this woman says, I lived with this man for 10 years, what she is saying is that it is because of his behavior, which still continues. I opted to go for divorce. If he had changed, I would have lived with him. So that if is always there somewhere. If this had happened, or this, if that offer had been made. So we try to identify this underlying issues and put it out in the open, asking them, have they thought about that? And then go into options. Only then they will be able to choose from the options. And even there, when they have options, we start to evaluate, is this good? Or is this offer good? If they say for 1 crore, if they say just 40 lakhs, okay, you said 40 lakhs. But do you think after asking for 1 crore, why are they asking for 1 crore? If it is so, then why are they, would they accept this 40 lakhs? So this is called as a negotiation dance. This goes back and forth. And after that is the selecting of the possibilities. Again, evaluating. And then coming to the agreement. So the lawyers are also very, very important. In the opening statement, again, we would also ask them whether their lawyers are there, especially when they come in the court-mandated mediations. Or if the lawyers are not there, ask them to inform their lawyers. If we are doing an online mediation, we tell them nobody else should be in the room. They must switch off. And both in the physical and in the online, we say there should be no recording of any of this because it's confidential. So it's very, very important that right from the beginning, we reiterate how the process will be conducted, and we reiterate it again and again so that they understand how the process will be conducted. Once they come to the final agreement and it is signed, we congratulate them, we thank them. If it is not even an agreement, we thank them for spending the time with us to help to understand the situation. And we say, in future, if you think you have changed your mind, you want to come back, you can always come back. So leave that door open for them so that their minds are already thinking about it. Especially in court mediations, what happens is they want the judge to say, yeah, this is the right thing. So as soon as they go back to court, they would agree to the same thing that was discussed in mediation, which they did not agree to in the mediation table. Many cases have happened like that. So it's good to keep the door open so that they understand that, and once they have that authority of the court, they feel, yeah, what I'm doing is right. They are not losing something. In private mediations, we always have another door open where we have to monitor whether the terms have to be complied. So we always ask them to come back and report whether whatever has to be done, or the time frame, or the payment, or whatever it is done. Also make it clear to them that in case they want to change the terms mutually, if mutually they agree to change the terms, they can always come back. So this gives them an affirmation that what they have done is right, but at the same time, they have some opening which would help them to correct something if it has not been looked at properly. Okay. So any questions so far? So how did you feel about doing this role play?
मैम क्वाइट इंटरैक्टिव, मतलब काफी कुछ सीखा हमने इससे, बहुत प्रैक्टिकल था बिकॉज अब तक हम सिर्फ थ्योरी ही पढ़ रहे हैं यहाँ इसमें भी.
तो जब थ्योरी पढ़ रहे हैं ना, ये see that's why I don't like to use all this vatna and all that. जब हम थ्योरी पढ़ रहे हैं, क्या say actually this morning I was listening to something where he said that listening actually helps us to learn more than reading. And I think which is very true, because even in class when we are listening to most of the stuff, we may not listen to everything. Jo kuch humne suna, that has an impact more than if you read 10 pages of the same thing. तो यहाँ जब हम रोल प्ले कर रहे हैं, क्या होता है, हम एक दूसरे को देखते हैं, दूसरे बात जो करते हैं पार्टीज की तरह, then we understand how the parties are positioned, how they look at the situation. So try out these two role plays, and we will meet next week and we will talk about how the mediator's presence has to be there, because that's the most important thing. Okay. So any questions? Any doubts?
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, then this journey, how far are you enjoying? I hope you are enjoying this. So we'll meet next week. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.